Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
evening.
Hi. Yeah, hi. Good evening. How are you? I think you joined some 5 minutes back, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Sorry, I just went outside.
No. I didn't join. I joined by 6:13. Sorry.
6:13. Okay, okay.
No. I wasn't like
Okay,
allowed.
fine then. Fine, fine.
Yeah.
So did I share the documents? Quasi contract? No, right?
No.
Okay, fine. I'll share that. Uh, I'll share that part and also the questions. So also I saw some questions on IPC, right? The question papers that you shared. So what I
Okay.
have noticed is that regarding cases, in
Hmm.
contracts they are asking more cases, right? Like take for example, there can be a question
Yes.
that define like regarding offer, regarding acceptance or anything it might be, and they are directly mentioning that
Yes.
like mention some cases, some landmark cases, but that is not there in
Yes.
case of IPC. Okay, like only in few of the
Hmm.
questions I have seen them asking, like mention case laws relating to that. So cases are
Yeah.
comparatively lesser in case of IPC, but for contract they are asking a lot many. So like whatever,
Yes.
yeah, time and energy you have to remember cases, I would say try to use it for contracts, right? And one more thing
Yes.
I'd say, like I told you, right? Even if you don't remember the exact case, it's fine. You can just say in a
Hmm.
decided case. That will work if they are saying
Yeah.
just write some cases relating to acceptance. But that will not work if they are directly
Yeah.
asking you what was held in Mohri Bibi case, right? Because you
Uh,
would know the
yeah.
fact, but again, you would not know whether it is from Mohri Bibi or Khangul or which other case. So try to
Yes.
remember the, like names also. If you do not remember Mohri Bibi versus Dharmodash case, that's fine. At least try to remember, okay, fine, this is Mohri Bibi case. Like that also you can,
Yes.
like try to remember some of it. So yeah, regarding the cases and all, I saw few of the like provisions. So it's like basically
Huh.
direct questions only. Directly they are asking what is this particular crime, what are the elements, explain with the help of some illustrations, right? So what we will try to do,
Yeah.
we will try to see different categories of crimes, and then for each of those,
Hmm.
right, like whatever is important, from there we will try to understand the elements which we need for that particular crime, right? So that is, they are asking what is theft,
Yes.
what are the elements of theft, explain
Hmm.
with the help of illustrations. If you know the elements, right, you can uh,
Huh.
think about illustrations yourself also, right? You can just write that in exams. So
Yes.
we will try to see different like categories of crimes, their elements, and then accordingly we'll try to understand that, right?
And our sir also told that
Hmm.
in IPC na mostly like regarding to women assault or harassment or rape like this cases will come more like that.
Okay, like cases regarding women, whatever offenses are there, from that part it will come more.
Cases or हाँ, cases or crime also questions mostly will come like rape and all these things is very important for IPC means this will come only
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Okay, okay. So you can do one
हाँ,
thing then. Like if you are reading 5 cases for IPC, then we will try to put cases
हम्म,
for whatever crimes are there relating to women, right? Like cruelty and all.
हम्म,
Also, I have seen cases. So for that, maybe you can try to remember cases. Rape is again very important. I have seen
हम्म,
many cases, right? So regarding that, also
yeah.
you can try to
And
remember.
I found this
Hmm.
unlawful assembly, murder, and culpable homicide. Then basis of criminal jurisprudence, grievous wounds, and
Hmm.
these are main topics like that. Sir
Yeah.
told us.
Yeah. Murder, culpable, homicide. Also, a lot of questions. Unlawful assembly. Also, yeah. You are right. So fine then, if they
Yeah.
have given important questions, those topics we will discuss in more detail compared to the remaining ones.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, but
So for
now,
constitutional
yeah.
law, we need to make our answers more good
Hmm.
because we won't have examples to write cases.
Yeah, but yeah, the cases and all you can refer for constitution also.
Yeah.
Entire constitution you don't need, I think, right? Few provisions only, fundamental rights and those stuff you really need.
Yes, yes.
For that also you can refer cases and all what is recently happening. Like if you are writing about,
Huh.
like freedom of speech and expression, maybe you can write about what recently happened, right? That toolkit case relating to farmers' protest. Those
Yes,
things you
yes,
can
yes.
mention. Like recent situations also you can mention with regard to that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
again,
Yes, yes.
yeah. So like that also you can try to, like relate. So
Yes.
fine. Like before starting with IPC, right? There are few important things which you should be knowing, and from where I have seen questions also, right? It's basically like an introduction. So we will try to see that part today. All right. So this is just a document regarding introduction to law. Okay. This is relevant for a person who do not have any legal knowledge, like someone is preparing for CLET or someone is preparing for any law
Uh-huh.
entrance exam, right? For them, this one is what I prepared. Maybe you also will find some relevance with regard to it. So from
Yes,
here,
yes.
there are certain things which are important. Okay, so with regard to offenses, right? What is an offense or a crime? What is offense?
Offense is something violative behavior or which is wrong
So how can we say it's wrong or it's violative? What is it that it is violating?
because it is against law.
Yeah, so there will be some established law, right? It can be a statute, it can be a legislation to which it is violating, right? So those are offenses or crimes
Hmm.
or wrongs that we say, right? So there are basically civil and criminal wrongs that we
Huh.
have said, right? In case of civil, we generally say
Huh.
it's a civil wrong, but in case of criminal, we say it's a crime, right? It's an offense. Why is it an offense or a crime? Because somewhere in some legislation it is written that this sort of a behavior is a crime, right? This is not how we are supposed to do. So that's what is crime or an offense, or in case of civil, for torts and all, it's what? It is a wrong, right? Civil wrong that we would say. So, when we
Yes.
say about crimes, right, there are different types of crime. Fine. A crime is what? Certain
Hmm.
act which is violating a legislation or a statute, right? But what happens in case of those crimes again? There are different categories of crimes, all right, depending on how serious or how severe the crime is, or depending on how much it will affect the society or many other things. There are different categories of crimes, all right.
Hmm.
So for
Huh.
IPC, right, while studying IPC, when you are reading a certain type of an offense, you will see that this is these categories of crime. So you should understand why is it falling under this particular category, right? You should understand that. So we will try to see
Hmm.
those things first today, right? It's like an introduction. So the first
Okay, okay.
first
So, ma'am,
category,
here,
yeah.
huh, so here bail is written bond. So we say that this person is out on bail. So that means ki they sign a bond and then they leave that person who is arrested for some days. Like that, it is still the case closes.
Yeah, like if you watch all these Hindi movies and all, you would see, right? A person will be arrested, then
Huh,
while
huh, huh.
releasing the person, they will say, like, शहर छोड़ के नहीं जाना. मतलब, what is that? You are making a
Huh.
commitment that I'll not leave this city, right? So that is what bond is. You will basically make
Okay,
some
okay.
promises, right? That without your permission, I'll not leave the city.
Yeah.
Without your permission, I'll not go outside India. Things like that. That is bond. So basically, there are
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
two different types of crimes, bailable and non-bailable. So what is bailable and non-bailable?
Hmm.
What is the,
Yeah, no, bailable means okay on which
yeah,
bailable is on which we can say okay you are out on bail for some time unless we get to root of the case, and non-bailable is where which is serious crime and you can't be given bail.
but who will give bail?
Court will give, na?
Court will give bail, right? So when, take for example, a person is accused of a certain crime and the person is arrested, right? When the person is arrested, and if it's a bailable offense, right, the person can go to the court and as if he has a right, like just like a right, he can ask for it. He can ask that I am accused of this offense, which is a bailable offense, so I should be released on bail. All right, the person can ask for it as a right, right? So in such cases court will usually, right, usually court will give grant, give bail if his, like there is no such previous, like criminal records or things like that. Court will usually give bail. But in case of non-bailable offense, it's not like person cannot even go to court and ask for bail. He can still go and ask, but it will be discretion of court. In most of the cases, court would not grant a bail, right? In case of non-bailable offenses. But if it's a
Okay.
bailable
And
offense, yeah.
and if someone is accused of murder, okay, like he has not done, but someone has charged on him for rape and murder, so
Hmm.
can he ask for bail?
See, until and unless the case is finally decided, we do not know whether the person has committed or not. Right? We cannot be 100% sure, even though
Yeah.
someone has filed a case or whatever. And under Indian legal
Huh.
system, if a case is filed against a person, court will assume that
Hmm.
person to be an innocent person, right? Unless and until beyond any doubt. That means 100% you have proved that I have committed a murder. Until that point, court will
Hmm.
presume that I'm an innocent person. I have not done that. So the question would not come whether the
Okay.
person has actually committed murder, actually committed rape, or something like that. It's just we are considering the
Hmm.
person is accused of a certain crime, right? That is why we are not saying he's a criminal, but we are just saying he is accused of a
Hmm.
certain crime, and we are not sure whether he has committed that or not, right? That is for courts to decide, right? So what is bailable and non-bailable offense? When you are reading IPC, right, there only you will see this is what theft is, and accordingly they would mention this is whether it's bailable or non-bailable, whether it's all the other different categories also it will mention. So based on that we can know whether it's bailable or non-bailable, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
take for example, in now why there are different categories of crimes, why are some crimes bailable and why not some other crimes? Why some crimes are bailable
Hmm.
is because even though, right, take for example, I am accused of a certain crime, even though I am released on bail, there is lesser risk involved with me roaming around the city, right? I am basically let free, right? I can just go anywhere. So there is less risk involved if I'm roaming freely, right? So in such cases court will release me. Take for example, there are crimes like rioting, bribery, unlawful assembly. In those cases what happens, even if I was a, I was taking part in some sort of a riot, I am released on bail, there is less likelihood that people will be afraid of me, right? If I was accused of bribery, it's less likely that people would be afraid of me, right? There is nothing to be afraid of a person who has taken bribe, right? And also
Yes,
court
yes.
court feels that it is less likely that I would try to tamper with evidences, because if I was involved in a
Hmm.
riot, right, it's very much evident, right?
Hmm.
Whatever happened, it just happened. I
Yes,
cannot
yes,
just go to the place and try to, remove the CCTV footage or something like that. So basically,
yes.
depending on the nature or type of crime, basically it's decided whether it's bailable or non-bailable. For bailable, mostly it's less serious crimes, and for non-bailable it's more severe crimes where releasing the person will be a
Hmm.
threat to the society. If, take for example, a person is accused of murder or attempt to murder, and the person is allowed to like released free, he is
1
free.
minute.
uh, yeah,
Hello.
yeah,
Hello.
yeah. Any problem
Hello.
with the audio? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. It is actually. It was breaking
Okay, okay, is it
first.
fine now? Is it fine now?
Yes, yes. What you said.
Yeah,
Huh,
take for
yes.
it.
What you
So
said. One. Like repeat.
yeah, yeah. So I was telling you about non-bailable offense. Take for example, I am
Hmm,
accused of murder or attempt to murder. All right, and I am just
hmm,
left free. All right, court just released me free. In that
hmm.
case, all my neighborhood and all the other people in the society will be afraid that a murderer is just roaming around freely. And if there are some witnesses, those persons will also be afraid. Maybe I was a eyewitness of that incident, maybe this person will kill me also, right? So there is lesser amount of risk involved for the other people, right? Other people will be more afraid. If a person is accused of rape, murder, dowry death, kidnapping, right, other people or the society in general will be more afraid if such a person is released free, right? And also
Huh.
there is a chance that the person will try to erase all the evidences that are available against him and things like that, right? He will basically try to tamper with evidences, and it is a risk for the society. People will be very much afraid if such a person is released freely. So that is basically the two different categories of crimes: bailable and non-bailable. Is it clear?
Okay. Yes, yes.
Then we have another two different categories of crimes: cognizable and non-cognizable. All right. So what is cognizable
Hmm,
and non-cognizable? Again, cognizable is what? Police officer may arrest without a warrant. Again, you must have seen in all these movies and serials and everything, when a police officer comes to arrest a person from a family, all the family members would go and ask, where is the arrest warrant? Have you seen that? Have you
hmm.
heard that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Right, that is the most common. See, now what is arrest warrant? Arrest warrant basically is an order that the police officer has received, that you are ordered to arrest this particular person because he is accused of this particular crime, right? So
Hmm,
arrest warrant is nothing but an order given to the police officer that yes, you have the authority to arrest so and so person because he is accused of so
hmm.
and so crime, right? That is what arrest warrant.
Okay.
Now, for every single crime, police officer cannot be waiting for the magistrate to issue an arrest warrant, right? Take, for example, police officer has seen that two people are, like fighting at the street very bad. They were almost about to kill each other. Police officer cannot run to the magistrate, wait for the next day, that next day arrest warrant will be released, and then he will again go look for the accused and then arrest them. That is not making any sense, right? That is not what we should do. So there are certain crimes
Yes.
where police officer can immediately arrest the person, right? Without an arrest warrant also police officer can arrest. For example, in crimes like rape,
Hmm,
dowry debt, kidnapping, theft, criminal breach of trust, there are offenses where arrest without warrant. Police officer is having the power that they don't need an arrest warrant, but they can immediately arrest the person.
hmm.
Those are considered as cognizable, right? Police officer can take the matter forward, they can arrest without having an arrest warrant also. Okay,
Yeah.
but there are certain
Yes.
offenses again where police officer will need an arrest warrant, right? Arrest warrant, and only then they can arrest, like cheating, forgery, defamation, assault, etc., where they would need arrest warrant,
Mhm.
right? So in such cases, police officer would wait for the arrest warrant and they will accordingly arrest. So there are again different crimes which are falling under cognizable category. There are different crimes which are falling under non-cognizable category, right? So try to remember these differences. What is
Mhm.
bailable, non-bailable, cognizable, non-cognizable. All right.
Yeah.
Non-cognizable, no authority without warrant. Cognizable, there is authority without warrant, right? Bailable, bail can
Yes.
be given. Non-bailable, no, like it's not a right. Next category is compoundable and non-compoundable.
Yeah.
What is compoundable?
Don't know.
What don't know? We discussed this one 2 days back. Compoundable and non-compoundable.
Yes.
Then what is
I
compoundable and non-compoundable?
forgot.
What is compoundable and non-compoundable? Basically, compoundable is compromise between petitioner and accused is possible. That means even though I am accused of a certain crime and you know that I am the one who has committed the crime, yeah, right? Court will allow compromise between us, right? So you can go
Yes.
to court and say that we want to settle the matter between ourselves only, and court will accordingly permit. We can do that. Take for example in check bounce cases, right? Mostly what happens in check bounce cases, parties will withdraw the case. They will say that we want to settle the matter within ourselves. So it is compoundable offense. Court can allow settlement of the matter between the parties. It will save time of court also. It will save time and effort of parties as well. Right? Next one is non-compoundable offense. What is non-compoundable? Non-compoundable is where compromise is not allowed. That means if there is a case with regard to grievous hurt, rape, murder, attempt to murder, sedition, all those things, right? Court will take the matter, entire trial process will go. Ultimately, court will decide whether you are accused, whether you have committed or not, right? Acquittal or dismissal, court will only decide. Right? Finally, everything has to be followed, right? Grievous hurt, rape, etc. So these are the 3 different categories of crimes which you should know. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What is burden of proof?
You said non-compoundable.
Yeah, I said non-compoundable.
Yes, burden of proof.
Yeah, what is burden of proof?
Compoundable, where it's grievous hurt is grievous hurt. Non-compoundable is grievous hurt, which means serious injury like that or serious crime.
Serious grievous hurt is a different type of crime that we have under IPC. Hurt also we have, grievous hurt also we have. Okay. What is burden of proof? Burden of proof?
Where it is very hard to find if he is accused or not, or gather proof against the accused.
What? I'm not getting you. What is very hard?
To get proof against the innocence, to prove that he's innocence, like the accused is innocence.
No, what is burden of proof basically is that? No, what is burden of proof? Burden as in the, like the burden, right? The obligation, right? Of proof. That means the obligation of proving a certain thing, right? So who will have the burden or liability of proving a certain thing? That is what burden of proof is. You will get this in evidence whenever you get that. So what is burden of proof basically? If you are going to court and filing a case against me that I have committed the offense of grievous hurt, all right, in that case, court will assume that I am an innocent person. I have done nothing wrong, right? So court will ask you that whatever you are saying, you prove that, right? If you are saying she is accused, she has committed the offense of grievous hurt, you prove that in front of us. That means the burden of proof lies with you, right? You will have to bear the obligation of proving that I have committed the offense of grievous hurt. That is basically burden of proof. Basically, whoever is going to court and complaining about something, that person will have the obligation or burden of proving whatever he said. Is it clear? Burden of proof.
Hello.
Yeah, is it clear? Burden of proof.
Yes. Yeah, I was disconnected in between.
Okay. So if you are going to court and complaining about me that I have committed the offense of like grievous hurt, you will have to prove that in front of court, right? You cannot just say that she has committed this offense. You will have to prove that in front of court also. So that is what is burden of proof. That means you will have the obligation or the liability of proving it in front of court that I am the one who has committed this offense.
Okay.
Okay, but once you prove that, okay, fine, this is what she has done and that is how she is accused of this offense, after that I will have to prove why I am innocent, why I should not be punished, right? Accordingly, the burden of proof will keep on shifting from this to that person. So initial burden will be on the person, whoever is going to the court and complaining about a certain thing.
Yes.
Right? So that is what burden of proof is. And beyond any doubt, the matter should be proved. If you are complaining that I have committed the offense of grievous hurt, you should prove it beyond any doubt. Only then court will punish me. If there is 1% of doubt also, then also court will not punish me. Because what Indian legal system believes is that let 100 accused, like 100 criminals
Be set free.
Yeah, be set free, right? But we should not punish even one single innocent person. So even there is 1% of doubt is also there, court will not punish me. So beyond any doubt, you should prove the matter, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Another thing is, what is cause of action? Cause of action basically means the matter, right? The reason or the cause or the reason why you are going to court. If I have committed the offense of grievous hurt and you are going to court, what is cause of action? That offense of grievous hurt is what is cause of action, right? Cause of action basically means the matter for which parties go to the court, right? If I'm accused of grievous hurt, it is cause of action is what? It is that particular matter. What is cause of action?
Yes.
All right, so these are not important for you. One more thing I will just share. So, all right, so the next thing which we have is, now you must be knowing that we have something called as substantive and procedural law, right? So when we have different types of laws, right? Laws are divided into basically two different categories, substantive and procedural. Okay, what is the difference between substantive and procedural?
Substantive is don't know, but procedural is like according to procedure of law, we need to do step by step and get to the point or get to the conclusion.
So any example of procedural law that you can give? What is procedural law in India? Any example?
Yes, means if someone is accused of murder, we can say, okay, so we need to get the proof of it, how he did the murder, and then we can come to the point if he has only done. Means if it is hard to prove, so we need to gather the objects that how he did the murder and all those things.
But now where is it written that you need to obtain the, like proof, you need to do this, that, where is it written?
FIR we need to fill that you are saying, or
No,
law that
FIR,
is written
yeah,
in IPC.
Law, where is it written that you need to gather evidence, then accordingly step by step you should go? In which law, where is it written?
Constitutional law.
Is it written under Constitution? It's not there, right?
No.
Then
Then in IPC only the act may be there.
See, under IPC also, they will just say that this is what is murder. They are not saying that, okay, if someone is committing murder, you gather evidence, you go to court, you do this, that. They are not saying. So where is it said is that, say, take for example, there are two different categories of laws, right? One is substantive, one is procedural. What is substantive? It basically is providing the substance, right? That means it is telling us what is crime, what are the elements of crime, what are the different types of offenses or crimes that may be committed, right? That is the substantive law. That means the basic substance of the crime, right? That is mentioned there. What is substantive law? Like IPC we have. What is IPC? IPC is mentioning different categories of crimes that may be committed, elements of those crimes, punishment, all those things are mentioned under IPC, right? So IPC is a substantive law. Similarly, we can have different other legislations like Indian Contract Act. Indian Contract Act also is saying that if you are making a promise, you perform that, otherwise you will face the consequences. That means that is also a substantive law. But there is something called as procedural law. Okay, fine. IPC is saying murder is a crime, this is the punishment. Theft is a crime, this is the punishment. Contract is saying you fulfill the contract, otherwise you pay for damages. That is fine. But how will we pay damages? How will we make the other person liable and things like that, right? So those things are also mentioned in some law which is called as procedural law. So for civil matters, we have civil procedural code, right? Code of civil procedure, which is the right? It will mention the process or the procedure, how you can file a civil suit, right? So that is a procedural law. Code of civil procedure is a procedural law. Similarly, we have something called as code of criminal procedure, which is the procedure for filing a criminal matter, right? So those are procedural laws. So we have some legislation which are mentioning that this is crime, you will face this punishment, this consequence, this, that. Those are substantive. And what is procedure? Where we have the procedure mentioned, how we can go to court, to which court we will go, how we will file the case, how we will lodge the FIR, all those things are mentioned there. Those, that is procedural law. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
So
So so procedural law is different branch.
Yeah, different branch of law basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so you will even get to study these things, code of civil procedure, code of criminal procedure in some second or third semester. You will go get those subjects also, where you will understand the detailed process, how a case will be filed and everything, right? Step by step, you will get that. So what is IPC
And
then?
substantive is IPC, no?
Yeah, substantive is IPC, and not just IPC. It's contract also, and any other legislation, you name it, right? We have Negotiable Instruments Act, that is substantive. We have all the environment related legislations, that is substantive. Basically, any legislation where a certain offense is mentioned, right? It is not talking about the procedure, how you will go to court, how you will produce evidence, this, that. That is not what it is. It is defining certain offense, right? We have Motor Vehicles Act, that is substantive.
Okay, yeah.
Whatever is defining a crime, that is substantive. Whatever is telling you the process of going to a court and filing a case and the entire process, that is procedural. That is the basic difference. All right.
Yeah.
So Indian Penal Code is what? It is a substantive law, right? It is talking about different types of crimes that can be committed. So Indian Penal Code is having 511 sections, and these 511 sections are divided into 23 different chapters, right?
Okay.
So because we have so many different types of crimes that are mentioned under IPC, we have these crimes divided into different categories. Like there are crimes or offenses committed against human body, property, offenses relating to relation, offenses against state, right? So there are different categories of crimes which we have under IPC that we need to study. All right. So now, one more thing we will have to understand here. Okay. So what is civil and criminal, you know, right, by now?
Yes.
Now, you know that there is something called as torts and there is something called as contract, right? So what is the difference between torts and contract? Why do we have two different things? By the way, tort and contract both are civil laws, right? So why do we have two different things, tort and contract?
Tort is civil wrong, but uh, tort can also include criminal wrong, because um, all the criminal wrongs, sorry, all the civil wrongs are not criminal wrong, but few criminal wrong can also be civil wrong. So that's
Mm,
why it is tort. And contract is where two parties involvement is there, that is contract.
okay. See, tort is never criminal. Tort is always civil. All right. There are certain crimes where, like defamation, it depends on you whether you want to go for a civil proceeding or a criminal. But if you are talking about tort under, like defamation under tort, it will always be civil. If you want to file a criminal matter, it will come under IPC. So tort is always civil. Okay. Tort is never criminal. Tort is always civil, and same type of crime under criminal also sometimes we find, like that of defamation. All right, so tort is always civil. Contract is also always civil. Now, why do we have two different things? Why do we have tort also? Why do we have contract also? That we will see. Okay, but firstly we will see what is tort and crime. What is the basic difference? It is same like civil and criminal law. In case of tort,
Yes.
there is infringement of private rights of individual, right? Like I am playing loud music and that is disturbing your sleep at night. That is what violation of your private right, right? You are not able to sleep properly at night. That means I am committing some wrong, right? That is tort of nuisance. In case of crime, what happens? There is breach of a public right. What is public right? Maybe all the people in a society are having a right to reside peacefully. I have committed the
Hmm.
offense of murder. As a result, everyone in the society will be afraid. That means I am affecting a public right of the entire society, that they cannot go out freely. They will be afraid that something may happen to them also, right? That is the basic difference between tort and crime. Next one
Yeah.
is, in case of tort, what happens? We compensate the plaintiff, right? You would compensate a person who has suffered loss because of you. But in case of crime, we try to punish the accused person, so that any other like-minded people also will be afraid, right? If I have committed the offense of murder and next day I'm roaming freely, anyone else would also feel that, oh, is it that
Yes.
simple to kill someone? So I'll also go and kill this person. I don't like this person. Right? That person can do like that.
Yes.
So in case of crime, what we do is that we try to punish the person just to set an example in front of other like-minded people, that if you commit murder, this is what you will have to face, right? This will be the consequence that you will have to face. So in case of crime, we try to punish the accused to set as an example in front of others, and also other people in the society will be, like relaxed, right? They will feel that, okay, fine, the accused got punishment, right? So that is the reason we want to punish the criminal in case of crime. That is the basic
Okay.
difference between tort and crime. Now, tort and breach of contract. Contract and tort also are different. How? In case of tort, there is breach of a duty which is fixed by law. That means if you are owner of a certain land, law gives you the right that you have the right to stay there peacefully. You have the right to sleep peacefully at night. But in case of contract, what happens? It is breach of certain obligations which are fixed by the contracting parties. Right? If there is a contract, it's only you and me who will fix the obligations of each other. Right? No law is coming there. Right? We are the ones who will decide. But in case of tort, it is already fixed what duties I have. I'm violating that. It's already fixed that I should not be playing loud music at night, right? It is not some contract that I have signed with my neighbor, right? It is a duty which is fixed by law in case of tort, but in case of contract, it's the parties who will decide what will be there. like obligations or duties. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah, so that is the first thing with regard to tort and contract. So next one which we have is, in tort, damages are generally unliquidated. What is unliquidated?
Yeah, it is written that compensation which is not prefixed means you can compensate according to the whatever the case is, like what how deep the case is or how hurt it is.
Yes, how much severe the other
Yeah,
person
yeah.
has, like how much loss the other person has suffered. Accordingly, it will be decided. That means when the case is filed before court, court will see the matter, and accordingly court will try to decide an amount of compensation, right? That for this much harm you should pay this much amount of compensation. But in case of contract, generally damages are prefixed, right? It is liquidated. So in case of contract, while making the contract itself, usually parties say that if you violate the contract, you need to pay me this much amount of money, right? So in case of contract, it is liquidated. So this word is very important for you, unliquidated, right? For torts also it's very important. So try to remember it.
Mhm.
So unliquidated damages means compensation which is not prefixed. Liquidated means which is prefixed, right? Before
Yeah.
happening of the event only compensation is fixed. What is the difference
Mhm.
between damage and damages? Damage means
Hmm.
loss or injury which you have suffered. When you put another S, it does not mean plural form of damage. It does not mean multiple
Yes.
losses or multiple injuries, but it means
Correct.
compensation. Okay, remember
Yes.
this
Yes.
difference. And also
Yes.
these two words, when you write act in small letter, it means action. When you write in it in caps in between of a sentence, it means a legislation or a statute.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, whenever you are writing name of a act like Indian Contract Act, you should never write A in small letter. It would mean action. Whatever legislation you are writing, it should be caps.
Yes.
Okay, so these are the few things which you should know. All right, so nothing much from here. Okay, so now we know that IPC is a substantive law. It is mentioning different types of crimes that may be committed. So what is a crime? Crime is commission or omission of an act that violates provision of any law which is in force and is punishable under the same. That means there is some sort of a law or a legislation or an act wherein something is mentioned, right? And that something or some provision is violated by this act or action. Now, what is omission and commission? What is the difference between omission and commission?
Uh, huh. Crime is like in some cases you are supposed to do this uh, act, okay? But in case you don't do that, means that act has been omitted. You don't perform it, so you commit crime, okay? Like
Hmm.
I don't this won't come, but I'm just giving the example of omission. Like you are supposed to pay the light bill by 20, but you don't pay it by 20, so then you will be charged. Like you will have to pay the damages compensation for that, like that. And committing is where you're not supposed to do the act but still you committed, so that is commission.
Yes, right. That is what is commission. You are not supposed to cause harm to another person. You are doing it. That is commission, right? You are not expected to cause harm to another person, but you still did it. That is commission, right? An offense by way of
Yes.
commission. An offense by way of omission. Good example that you have given, that you are supposed to pay light bill by a certain date. You did not pay it. That is an omission, right? You were supposed to pay income tax by a certain date, you did not do it. That is an omission, right? You have committed a crime by not doing something, not performing an obligation which you were having. Yeah, right, that is true. So an act can either be an omission or a commission. Now, elements of crime. What are the elements of crime? That means basic things which we need for a crime. First is a human being. Okay, now in earlier times what used to happen is we used to punish even animals. All right, if an animal caused loss to my crops, I will go and cause harm to that animal. Why? Because I
Oh,
would feel, yeah, it was like that in like ancient times, all right, because I would feel that this animal is guilty of this particular wrong, so the animal should be punished. But gradually we realized that animals do not have that much of, like understanding, that they would know that just because I damaged her crops 5 days back, so only she is causing me loss. Animals do not have that much of understanding, so we stop doing that. Now we can make the owner of that particular animal liable, right? We can ask him to pay compensation or damages or things like that. So now it's only human being who can be an element of crime, right? So the word person will include a company, association, or body of persons as well. It can be human beings like you and me, or it can be artificial persons also. What is artificial person or a juristic person? It may be a company, association, body of persons, some cooperative society, some groups, universities, colleges, right? Which are recognized by court. They are recognized or registered under some body, and they are considered just like an individual only, right? So there can be a case filed in the name of a company or against a company also, right? You will see different cases where maybe party will be, okay, fine, this person versus HDFC Bank. So HDFC Bank is not a person, right? It's not a living being, but still law considers it similar to that of a person only. And that company, association, body also can be an element of crime. All right.
Yes.
So section 11 defines what is a person. Person can be a living human being like you and me, or it can be company, association, body of persons, etc. as well. The next element which we have is mens rea or guilty intention. What is guilty intention?
Like where you had wrong intention.
Wrong intention. So if I caused you harm, it's not like all of a sudden I'll just go and cause you harm, right? There will be some intention behind it, right? Maybe I was thinking that, okay, fine, I don't like this person, I want to cause harm to this person, right? I should have a guilty intention, right? Some intention will be there. It's not like all of a sudden I'll go and start killing people or causing harm. That is not the case, right? So there will always be mens rea or guilty intention, right? And after that only I will commit some sort of a crime. So there is a maxim also with regard to this: actus non facit ream nisi mensit rea, which means guilty intention and guilty act together will constitute a crime. Unless and until I have a guilty intention, only if I'm committing a guilty act, sometimes that will not be a crime. That means even though whatever I have committed is not right, if I do not have a guilty intention, I will not be punished.
Yes.
All right. When you read IPC, right, you will see for different types of offenses, for certain types of offenses, they would even mention that for this you need guilty intention. Without guilty intention, it will not be punishable. Why? Because maybe whatever you are doing is wrong, but for this you need guilty intention. Unless and until guilty intention is proved, you cannot be punished. Okay. One example is theft. All right. For theft, we need guilty intention. So I cannot commit a crime without having guilty intention. Commit the crime of theft without having guilty intention. What is theft? Moving your property without your approval or permission, right? But it should be with a guilty intention. Take for example, you are my classmate, all right? We both were sitting in the same bench and you carried your laptop to college, all right, one day. And you just left your laptop in the bench and you just went out to have lunch, all right? I was there inside the classroom. Or maybe you just forgot to carry your laptop, you left and you went home, all right? What I will feel is that she just left her laptop here and maybe someone will just take it, all right? Someone may just take it if I keep it here. So what I will do is that I will carry your laptop and next day I will return, all right? Maybe I don't have your phone number to inform you that, but I carried your laptop with an intention that I will return it tomorrow. So in that case, you cannot file a case against me for the offense of theft. You cannot say that I just, like stole your laptop. Why? because I was not having a guilty intention of keeping the laptop with me, right? I did it with a good intention only, that someone may just take it or it may get damaged or something. So I will rather take it and return it to you tomorrow. That means I do not have guilty intention over here, right? So I will not be punished there. So for certain crimes, guilty intention is very much needed. Okay, and similarly you would see like children are relaxed from punishment, right? Children are not punished, or a person or insane person is not punished under law. Why? Because they do not have that thing, right? A child do not have guilty intention, or a child do not know what he is doing is wrong or something like that. Same with a person, insane person, right? So they are accused, like allowed to go free, right? They are not punished for the crimes. Why? Just because they cannot have guilty intention, right? They cannot have that mens rea present. Is it clear? Second element.
Yes.
Now for all the crimes we cannot just say that you need to have guilty intention, only then you will be punished, right? For all the things we cannot say. Take for example, we have Motor Vehicles Act, where a person will have to pay compensation to the other if in case of accident. So accidents, obviously no one would do it intentionally, right? So every single time an accident takes place and a case is filed under Motor Vehicles Act, the person would just come forward with the simple excuse, right? That I did not intend to commit this accident. So if every single case we are just excusing the person based on intention, that means the legislation will only have no meaning, right? We are not in a position to punish anyone. So that should not happen. There are certain legislations where irrespective of whether the person is having guilty intent or not, we will punish the person if the act is being committed. Yeah, so similarly under IPC also we have some crimes where we are not looking at intention, but we will simply punish the person just because he has done something wrong.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so is it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Next.
because we seen many movies na ki they do accident of any person purposely.
Yeah, right. So those things only, right?
Yeah.
So the next element which we have is actus rea, or illegal act or omission, right? That means we have guilty intention, fine, but just having the intention is not enough, right? If I have the intention of killing a person, simply because I have the intention, I cannot be punished, right? I should do something also to fulfill my intention. What is that? It can be illegal act or it may be omission, right? I had the intention of cheating income tax department, so I did not pay income tax. That means I omitted to pay income tax, right? It's omission that will lead to a crime. Or maybe I had the intention of causing harm to another person. I did it. That means an illegal act that will lead to commission, right? So there has to be actus reas as well. That means guilty act, right? There has to be guilty act or omission, only then we can punish the person. Simply because I have the intention, that will not be enough. All right, so guilty intention as well as act will make the person liable, right? So this makes him, right, actus non facit rea nisi mensit rea. The guilty intent plus guilty act together will constitute a crime, not otherwise. Okay.
Yes.
And fourthly, we need what? We need injury to human being, right? I have a guilty intention, I committed something wrong, and lastly, it should result to some sort of an injury to another human being, right?
Yeah.
So what is injury? The word injury denotes any harm, whatever illegally caused to any person in body, mind, reputation, or property. Now, injury does not mean physical injury only. It can be in terms of reputation of a person, like defamation. It can be causing, like it can be causing some kind of damage or harm to property, like mischief. It can be causing harm to mind of a person, body of a person, right? It can be anything like that. Some sort of an
Yes, yes.
injury is there. So these are the
Hmm.
4 elements which we have with regard to crime. All right. For commission of a crime, we need 4 elements. These 4 elements. Is it clear?
Yes.
All right. Okay, regarding stages of crimes, like I will try to write something in a more elaborate way and then we will look at this, because I saw questions were there from this part, right? Stages of crime. So I'll try to write some notes on it and then we will discuss that. Okay, next part is general exceptions. All right, what is general exceptions now? What are general exceptions?
Uh, Generally, no, mm,
Okay, so in case now we know, right, there are 4 elements. What is crime? It can be commission or omission. That means if you have committed a crime, you will have to face the consequences, right, that are mentioned under the law.
yes.
If you have committed something under IPC, you will have to face the consequences, right? Whatever punishment is mentioned, you will have to face that. As simple as that,
Hmm.
right? But there are
Yes.
certain general exceptions. That means exception is what? Whatever the law is, it's exception to that, right? That is not applicable in some cases. So these are general
Yes.
exceptions which are applicable to all the different provisions of IPC. That means
Hmm.
if there are 500 different types of crimes mentioned under IPC, we will not get these exceptions 500 times separately, right? For if they are mentioning this is what theft is, they would not again write these 10 different types of general exceptions are applicable. They have mentioned all of these things at once only, right? That these general exceptions are applicable for all the different crimes which we have, right? These are generally applicable for all the different crimes. Now, what are general exceptions? That means usually what happens, if you have committed a crime, you will be answerable for it, right? You will have to face the consequences. But
Yes.
there are certain cases or situations when a person will be excused from the consequences.
Hmm.
The person will not have to face the punishment in certain cases, right? So these are general exceptions. 10 different situations where a person will not be punished, right? Even though he
Liable.
has committed. Yeah, the person will not be made liable even though he has committed something wrong.
Yes.
So these general exceptions may be like an excusable act or justifiable act. That means excusable as in, okay, fine, you have committed the act, but it can be excused. All right, we can excuse that act. Like an innocent, like a child has committed a wrong, you can excuse the child. An insane person has committed a wrong, you can excuse that person. An intoxicated person commits a crime, right? A person, and after taking alcohol or something, he has committed a crime, you can excuse that person. What is justifiable act? That means you can provide a justification as to why it is done. Like a judge has given punishment to a person, you can justify that the other person had committed some wrong, that is why judge has given this punishment. And then we have private defense, right? To save ourselves, we cause harm to the other person. So it can be either
Yes.
excusable or something where we can provide a valid justification as to why it is being done.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, these general exceptions are from sections 76 to 106, and these general exceptions are very much important also. Okay, so you need to remember these general exceptions, that there are 10 different types of general exceptions along with the sections you try to remember. So what I used to do is I used to find it difficult to remember it in proper sequence. All right, I can remember all of the exceptions, but I found it difficult to remember that after mistake of fact, judicial act would come, then accident, then necessity, then child,
Hmm.
Right? So sequence, I used to find it a little difficult. And if you remember the sequence, it's easier for you to remember the sections as well. So I used to remember
Yes.
it this way. Michael section, take for example, Michael section, okay, MZ. And
Ha.
okay, then I see you, you think I see you, okay, that is written in a different way. Okay, Michael section and CUI, then cap. All right, Michael section and CUI cap. You just assume it is some kind of a cap that Michael section is having. All right, Michael section and CUI cap. Accordingly, you can remember M for mistake of fact, J for judicial act, A for accident, N for necessity. C for child, unsound mind, intoxication, consent, act using slight harm, and then private defense. If you find this easier this way, you can try to remember. I could remember it by remembering this thing, Michael section and
Yes.
CUI cap. You also try this way. And then regarding the sections also, it is not that difficult to remember the sections. For mistake of fact, it is 76 and 79. Whatever is remaining in between is relating to judicial act. Then one section 80 accident, 81 necessity. Then two sections 82, 83 child, 24 unsound mind, intoxication, two sections, then consent. Accordingly, you can remember. All right, like private defense 96 to 106. Try to remember the sections. It's also important. All right. So accordingly, remember. Now, what are these general exceptions? We will see that also, all right? And also one more thing, if your, like teachers have told you anything that this part is important or something, tell me that, like for contracts also, right? If they have mentioned any part to be important, we can focus more on that part, right? I can prepare better notes for that and I can provide you that so that you can prepare that part. So did they mention anything about general exceptions?
No, they didn't mention about general exceptions anything.
Okay, so murder, culpable homicide, and offenses relating to women, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So next is, what is mistake of fact? We will see. What is mistake of fact? There are two sections relating to it, 76 and 79. First is justified by law. First is bound by law. Like one is bound by law and another one is justified law by law. So an act done by a person bound or by mistake of fact believing himself to be bound by law, and another one is justified by law. Now, what is the difference between bound by law and justified by law? Justified as in you can give a justification, right? After you give the justification, we can also agree that, okay, fine, you whatever you have done is right, right? You can justify your act. What is bound by law? That means you have an obligation to do that, right? You are bound to do something under law, right? So there will be a mistake of fact. What kind of mistake? It may be either thinking that I am bound by law, or it may be thinking that I am justified by law. All right, I will give you two examples. What is mistake of fact? Take for example, we saw, right, that there is this, like arrest warrant that will be issued to police officer.
Yeah.
Right. So take for example, one person has committed an offense whose name is Rakesh. All right, Rakesh has committed an offense and arrest warrant was issued, right? A police officer was given the order that you arrest this person named Rakesh, who is a resident of this Electronic City. All right, you arrest this person for this crime. Now, police officer went there. He was having maybe a photograph of Rakesh. All right, and Rakesh is having a twin brother who looks exactly same as Rakesh. All right, who is Dinesh.
Yeah.
Right, when police officer goes to arrest Rakesh, by mistake he arrested Dinesh. Why? Because both of them looked similar.
Yes.
Right. In this case, police officer can say that. So if Dinesh files a case against the police officer that he was illegally arrested or this, that, police officer can say that, yes, I was under a mistake of fact. What I thought is that I thought that I am bound by law to arrest this person named Dinesh, right? So there was mistake of fact. I misunderstood Dinesh to be Rakesh and I arrested him, right? So police officer will not be punished, right? Why? Because he thought
Yes.
himself to be bound by law. There was a mistake of fact.
Yes.
Is it clear what is bound by law?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Now, what is justified by law? Take, for example, you are shooting for a movie with your friends, all right? And there is a park. Take, for example, there is this, like botanical garden, which is there, okay? Take, for example, you have gone there and they are charging like 5,000 rupees for one single day if you are shooting there. Okay, you need to pay 5,000 rupees to shoot there for one single day. Now you have paid 5,000 rupees and you decided that because I have paid so much, we will complete the shooting today itself, right? Somehow we will wrap up everything today only so that we don't need to pay another 5,000 rupees.
Yeah.
And there was a scene where one person was trying to kill another one, all right? And you were shooting that part and cameras were somewhere, like set up somewhere at a distance. So I was just there, I was just walking in the park and I somehow saw that this person is trying to kill another person. All right, but I did not notice that there are cameras there. So what I tried to do is that to save this person, I thought it is a real incident what is happening. I tried to, like take this person to the police station. I went to police station, this, that. Basically, I wasted your time, right? I did not allow you to complete your shooting in that one day time. So if you file a case against me saying that I will have to, like pay you because I caused all these disturbances, this, that, and all the loss, I can go to court and say that I was under some sort of a mistake of fact and I can justify my thing. Why? Because being a person, I have a duty to save another human being, right? If I saw someone is about to kill another person, I have a duty to save that person. So I can justify my act. I can say that I'm justified by law that I can save another human being if I see someone is trying to kill him. So in that case also I can escape the punishment, right? So that is the difference. There is mistake of fact, but in one case under section 76 the person is just bound by law, and in another 79 the person is justified by law. Is it clear?
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Justified by law comes 79 and bound by law is 76.
Yeah, bound by law is 76, right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Next one is next one is Judicial Act section 78 and 77 and 78. So what is Judicial Act? What is Judicial Act section 77 and 78?
Judicial action, where means court can take action for like the things mentioned down.
All right. So court can do this, right? So what is Judicial Act? All right. So can you read this thing and tell me what you understand from these two provisions?
Yes.
What is it?
Judicial Acts, crime, 77. Act of judge when acting judicially. Nothing is an offense which is done by a judge when acting judicially in the exercise of any power which is or which in good faith he believes to be given to him by law. Whatever the judge or judicially or the judge decides is the final decision, because he does it being his right or authority to do that, so it can't be questioned.
Yeah, did you understand what they are saying? Basic difference between the two I will tell you. So what is judicial act? That means judiciary is doing something. What is judiciary? Courts are doing something, right? Basically, we are justifying something that is done by the court, right? That is judicial act. So there are two provisions which we have. First one is act of judge, right? When acting judicially, that means judge is doing something being a judge, right? Take for example, there is a judge of sessions court who has given the punishment of 10 years of imprisonment to someone or ordered for death penalty to someone. That means he is a judge, and being a judge, he has passed that order that this person should go to jail for 10 years. That means he will be justified to pass that order, right? The other person cannot go to court and say that this judge killed my, like family member. Why? Because the judge was having justification, right? The judge is justified in passing such an order, right? So judge will be justified, right? So judge can pass such an order,
Yes.
punish a person, kill a person, whatever. Other people cannot go and file a case against the judge. All right? Is it clear? Is it clear? Hello, am I audible? Is it clear?
Yeah, I can see the slide. Now I can see.
Okay, so judge can give this kind of orders judicially, and no one can file a case against the judge basically. Now, take for example, a judge has passed an order that this person will face, like death penalty. In that case, what happens is that it's not the judge who will bring the accused and then give him this death penalty, right? It is some other officials or some other persons who will execute that order, right? So those people will also be saved, right? So we cannot say that this person killed this other person. Why did this person kill? Because he was someone who was following the order of the judge, right? So it's not the judge only, but it is also other people who are working under the judge who help in execution of the order, right? So both of those, all of those people will be, like excused from this thing. Is it clear?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Next one is accident. Now, accident in itself is not something that will be excused, right? I cannot just be negligent and then I will be safe. No. What is accident? Accident is what? Without any criminal intention or knowledge, right? I did not have any bad intention and I was doing some lawful act in a lawful manner with proper care and caution. After that, also something happened. That is what accident is. I cannot be negligent and then say that it happened accidentally. No. I will have to take care of everything, right? After taking proper care, measures, following guidelines, this, that, I did everything from my end, but even then it went wrong. That is what is accident, all right? I was doing a right thing in a right way by following proper, like rules, regulations, everything. Even then something went wrong. That is what is accident. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Take for example, there is a factory.
Yes, yes.
Take for example, there is a factory where many skilled workers are working, all right? So these skilled workers are using like heavy machinery. Maybe they are producing chocolates, all right? They are using this heavy machinery, big machines and everything. So there are certain guidelines that the factory to follow. And factory was following all of those guidelines. They were ensuring machines are properly maintained and everything. Even then something went wrong, because we cannot be sure about a machine, right? Anything can go wrong at any time. So something went wrong. That will be an accident, right? Where every single thing was taken care of. Even then something happened. That is what is accident, right? That no one was guilty actually in that case. It just happened accidentally. Is it clear? Okay. Next one is necessity.
Yes.
Necessities. Now, what is necessity? Necessity is something
necessity.
Which, yeah.
Basic.
Necessity is what?
No,
Yeah.
continue.
What is necessity? Necessity is something.
Continue.
Huh?
Continue.
Continue. What is continue?
No, I'm telling you that I didn't
Okay.
say anything. You
Okay.
continue.
Okay. So what is I thought what is continue? How is continue related with necessity? Okay. So what is necessity? Necessity is like it's necessity, like it's necessary. I don't have any other option. I need this only. Now, what is necessity? Take for example, act likely to cause harm but done without criminal intention to prevent other harm. Take for example, there is a road where it is mentioned that speed limit is 30 kilometer per hour. Okay, I need to follow
Yeah.
that particular traffic rule, right? And also they are saying drive carefully, this, that, something is there. Now
Yeah.
someone is very sick, all right, I need to take that person to hospital. Okay, maybe it's early in the morning, so I thought, okay, it's early in the morning, there will not be too much of rush in this road, so even though speed limit is mentioned as 30 kilometers per hour, it's fine if I drive a little bit faster because I need to take this person to hospital as early as I can, otherwise the person will die. So
Yeah.
in this case, what I am doing is I am taking the risk that if I do not follow this traffic rule, might be someone is going for a morning walk, right? I may cause an accident or something, but still I don't have any other option. I need to take this person to hospital anyhow as early as possible. Otherwise, for sure, this person will die. That means what is greater harm? I may hit someone, that is a likelihood, right? I may hit someone, but what I know for sure is that this person will die, right? That means it's a greater harm, right? Here I know for sure this person will die, and there is just a possibility or a chance that the other person may get injured, maybe like there may be an accident. So in order to prevent a greater harm or a serious harm, that means in order to save this person's life, I may take the risk of causing an accident also, right? I may violate some traffic rules also. That is what is necessity. Is it clear?
Yes.
So necessity is section 81. All right. Next is child. So regarding child, we have two sections, 82 and 83. Okay. So
Yes.
anything.
Ma'am, 1 minute.
Yeah,
I'm writing example of necessity.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. In case of necessity, necessity is done, right? Next is child. So with regard to child, right, there are basically 4 different things which are applicable. Only these two are mentioned here in general exception. I'll just tell you everything. Anything which is done by a child under the age of 7 years. All right. Anything which is done by a child under the age of 7 years is no crime. That means below 7 years, a child is not in a position to have that much of understanding to know what is right and what is wrong. So whatever is done by a child under the age of 7 years will be considered that it's not a crime. The person is, like the person cannot be punished basically or made liable for it. All right. That is under 7, which is mentioned under section 82. Act of a child under 7 years of age is what? Nothing is an offense which is done by a child under 7 years of age. When we say nothing, that means there cannot be any crime committed by a child under 7 years of age. All right. Next one is section 83, which mentions regarding crimes committed by a child of 7 to 12 years of immature understanding. Nothing is an offense which is done by a child above 7 years of age and under 12 years of age. So if a child from the age group of 7 to 12 commits a crime, we will basically see whether he is mature enough to understand that what he has committed is crime. If he is found
Uh-huh.
to be mature enough, we will punish him under Juvenile Justice Act. If he is found to be not mature, we will excuse him, right? We will not punish him. That is what this provision is, right? From 7 to 12 years, we will look at maturity of the person, and then accordingly we will decide whether he should be punished or not.
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes.
And next,
Yes.
these two things are not mentioned under IPC, but like you should know that. So I'm just mentioning here. So anything which is done by a child from the age of 12 to 16 years, it is for sure a crime under Juvenile Justice Act. He will be punished. And now we have a latest amendment after that Delhi gang rape case, right? Nirbhaya case. After that, we have amendment that whatever is done by a child between 16 to 18 years, we will see whether the child is mature enough or not. If he is found to be mature enough, he will be tried similar like an adult, and he will be given same punishment as is mentioned under IPC. But if he is found not to be mature enough, he will still be tried under Juvenile Justice Act.
Okay.
All right. So these two things are only mentioned under general exceptions, that anything done below 7 years, not crime. Anything done between 7 to 12, we will see maturity of the child. If he was found to be mature enough, he will be punished under Juvenile Justice Act. If not, he will be excused for the crime. All right, sections 82 and 83.
Yes.
Next is unsound mind, right? Act of a person of unsound mind. All right. So what is unsound mind basically?
Yes.
The person is of unsound mind. That means a mad person, right? Or a stupid person, a lunatic person, all of that. So at the time of committing the crime, if the person was not in a position to understand what he has done is wrong, then the person will not be punished, right? There may be a person who is undergoing some kind of treatment. All right. So usually he is of sound mind, but occasionally he gets attack of insanity. All right. In that case, the person cannot take that as an excuse and keep on committing crimes, right? Court will see whether while committing the act, he was having an attack of insanity or not. If he was having an attack of insanity, he will be saved. Otherwise, he will have to face the consequences, right? So in case of unsound mind, it's not like all the time they will be saved, but while committing the crime, they should be of unsound mind. Only then the person can ask for this defense. Is it clear?
Yes. Means if he is like a proper of unsound mind while committing a crime also, then he will be excused.
Yeah, he will be excused if he was of unsound mind while committing the crime.
Okay, yes.
Okay, that means while committing the crime, he was not in a position to understand what he is doing, right? If he is of unsound mind. So usually
there is no provision that
there
is no provision that if no provision or what for like if the person who committed unsound crime, he was of unsound mind, so his family members will have to compensate for it or like that.
Not like family members will have to compensate, right? Because like that person in 1 second only the person can commit the crime, right? Family members cannot be like guarding him or protecting him or something, right? They also have their own life, so we cannot just make them liable for what he has done, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there can be certain things, maybe one person is admitted in a mental hospital, then the hospital authorities were not taking proper care, he just escaped, they were negligent. In those cases, we may file a case against hospital authorities for negligence. But yeah, it's not like an universal rule everywhere we can, like do that, right? Sometimes only we will be in a position to do that.
Yes.
Next is consent. All right, 1 second. Huh? My like battery is dying. I'll just bring the charger and put it on charge. 1 second.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next one is consent. Consent as in you have agreed, right? You have given your approval. So if you have given your approval, later on you cannot file a case against me that I caused something, right? Take for example, you are going to a doctor for some operation, and later on you cannot file a case against the doctor that this doctor caused harm to me, right? Or hurt to me, right? So you cannot do that. Why? Because you were the
Yes.
one who consented for it, right? If you are going for a root canal and then filing a case against the dentist that he is causing hurt to me, right? That should not be the case. Basically, you have given your consent, so that will not be applicable. So you will see for most of the
Yes.
operations and everything, doctor would ask you to sign a consent form also, right? Why is it that done? That you are
Yes.
giving consent to that particular operation, right? So that later on you cannot just claim for it. So this
Yes.
is what consent is basically, that you are agreeing to it. Later on, you should not again go and complain. Next one is act causing slight harm. What is slight harm? That means it's so small, right? Whatever harm is being caused is so small that you should not really mind it, right? Like take for example, both of us are walking on the road and we just like somehow we touched each other's body, right? That harm is something which you should not mind because it was a crowded road, maybe, right? You cannot file a case against me saying I caused you harm, right? So that is what is slight harm.
Yes.
It's so minor that any normal person or individual would like ignore that. So that is what is slight harm. So that also is a general exception.
Yes.
Last one is private defense. So private defense or self-defense. What is self-defense?
Self-defense is you sorry. You take action to protect yourself.
Yes, you take action, right? Basically, you take law in your own hands to save yourself, right? That is self-defense or private defense. Even though we say it as self-defense, it is not just including my own safety, right? I basically have two things. I can save body and property. All right, it can be my body as well as property, and not just mine. It can be my body and property, someone else's body and property, my property, someone else's property also, right? If I see someone trying to take someone else's wallet, I can save that person's wallet also. Why? Because I have the right to save someone else's property as well, right? So body as well as property of my own self or someone else. That is what private defense is.
Yes.
Right? Saving body and property of oneself or someone else also. Now, what happens is, in case of self-defense, right, I cannot go on causing any amount of force that I want, right? That amount of force also has to be proportionate. Proportionate as in how much amount of force I need to use to prevent that particular harm is what I should use. If you are coming to slap me, all right, I cannot take out a revolver and shoot and kill you. Why? Because you were coming with your bare hands to slap me. So maybe I can stop you with my bare hands. I can, hold your hands. I can push you, right? That is how much of force I need to prevent you, right? But I cannot kill you for that matter, right? That means even if there is this, thing is there, I should not use that as an advantage and cause more harm than what is necessary, right? Basically, how much is necessary to prevent the person at that moment, that much only I should be using. All right.
Yes.
And also private
Yes.
defense is applicable only when I do not have the option of seeking any help from the police or other bodies, right? If, take for example, you are calling me and telling me someday I will kill you. In that case, I cannot go running to your house and kill you, right? I cannot do that. Maybe I can go to police station,
Yes.
file an FIR against you. Why? Because I have the option and time and everything to go to police station, right? In that case, I should not take law in my own hands and go and kill you. Why? Because you were not, like immediately you were not about to kill me, right? On phone you said that someday I will kill you, right?
Yes.
That means I have the time to go to police station and file a case against you, like file an FIR against you. So private defense can be applied for body and property of my own self or someone else. It can be applied only when I don't have the option of going to court or going to police station or seeking help, but immediately I need to prevent it, right? There is apprehension of risk, immediate risk, only then it can be applied. Is it clear?
Yes.
So it is sections
Yes.
96 to 106 that mentions regarding private defense. So these are the sections, Michael section and CUI cap, and you can accordingly remember the general exceptions which we have. Tried to remember the sections also. All right. So these are the general exceptions that we have. So after that, right, we have different categories of crimes. Again, you can download the BERECT for IPC, and there they have clearly mentioned the different, like classification or groups of, like crimes which may be committed, right? So accordingly you can just, like look for those as well.
Yes. I have that IPC BERECT.
IPC BERECT you have, right? So you can maybe go through the provisions and everything, so that if you are writing an introduction for that, right, you can say that, okay, fine, there are 511 sections. It's a substantive law that provides for different categories of crimes. Like you can give examples, right? That you can mention that there are some crimes relating to, relating to army, relating to state, then body, property, this, that, right? Accordingly, you can write and then mention the different types of crimes. Okay, so that was about the introduction part, right? Then we have different categories of crimes which we will be seeing. Okay.
Yeah.
So because they have mentioned that crimes relating to women are more important, you can just look for what all are there. Miscarriage is there, then criminal force, modesty, cruelty. Yeah. So fine, then we will look at these different, like types of crimes which we have, that we will look into in detail, all right, from next class. And also I will try to put some, like illustrations or something for the crimes relating to women, all right, so that you can prepare from there. So is this part clear, or any doubts from this part, whatever we discussed today?
No.
Okay. So fine then.
IPC class is very interesting.
Okay, IPC class.
IPC class is very interesting. But then what to write in it, like how to elaborate it so much. Like I can only write for IPC one page, means if I see,
If
I
there
don't
is a
understand how to
question,
write.
see, I'll just tell you, all right. There is, take for example, a question where they are not saying that write about the general exceptions, but only one they have mentioned, all right, write about necessity. So you don't just start, start with what is necessity. You start with an introduction, right? Maybe an introduction, you can write IPC is a substantive law. There is something called a substantive and procedure. Procedural tells us how we will go, this, that, everything. There are 511 sections divided into 20 23 chapters under IPC. It deals with different categories of crimes. Now, for all these categories of crimes, usually what happens is that if elements of crime are being satisfied, the person will be punished, right? A person will be answerable. But there are again certain exceptions, that even though a person has committed a crime, there are certain exceptions or defenses under which he can ask for an like defense, right? He can ask that he should be allowed to escape the punishment. Now there are different types of general exceptions also. Some are excusable, some are justifiable, for which we can give a proper justification. Some are where we can excuse that particular act. So necessity is also falling under one of the general exceptions out of these 10 that we have. It is section 81 that talks about necessity. Then you can elaborate what is necessity, right? Then you can come to
yes.
Then you can come to what is necessity, that there can be situations where we want to prevent like a greater harm, and for that we are taking the risk of causing a smaller harm. So but what happens is that it is without any criminal intention. That means if I am breaking a traffic rule, I do not have the criminal intention of breaking it, but just because it is my necessity that I want to take this person to hospital anyhow, I am breaking this traffic rule. That means criminal intention or mens rea is not there, right? Mental element is not there, but still I am taking the risk of violating a legislation or violating some smaller rules or something. So that is necessity, but it does not mean anything and everything will be necessity, right? If I want to attend the class early in the morning, so I'm just like waking up late and then violating traffic rules and all, that is not necessity, right? Attending a class is not what will come under necessity, but obviously saving someone's life would come under necessity. Accordingly, you can give multiple illustrations also and try to elaborate it, right? If you know what is it that it contains, that prevent greater harm, we are taking the risk of causing smaller harm, there is criminal intention. So each and every element that you know, right, that one you can try to explain. What is greater harm, what is smaller harm, what is taking the risk, what is criminal intent, you can accordingly try to elaborate that with the help of examples. That way you can like write more, and then when you are giving a conclusion, that time you can properly write, right? That if this thing is not there, means no one would take that like volunteer to save someone's life, right? So these kind of things are necessary, this, that. Accordingly you can like elaborate how much ever you need to write.
Yes.
And if at any point of time, if you feel like I don't have anything to write anymore, illustrations are a good way, right, to write more on a certain topic. You can just start giving illustrations and you will be in a position to write more. Yeah. So any other things you wanted to discuss or tell?
No.
So is it like you are clear with whatever was discussed in class regarding IPC?
Yes.
You are clear, but you don't know how much to write or what to write, right? For any certain crime, Okay. Fine, then we will see more of this. And if you have any doubts or anything, you can just ask, right? How to write, what to write. Any other doubt also, you can ask anytime, all right?
Yes.
Yeah. So fine, then I'll share these documents also with you and we'll continue, all right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Fine, then thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.